Trepidation. When you woke up this morning, did you purposely say, I'm going to confine myself to a box? Or do you just avoid putting any conscious thought into today? When you're busy going at it, literally or figuratively, do you ever find yourself pausing for a moment to realize what's going on? Or are you just reacting? When you hear the saying, may I have your attention please, do you continue as you were, or do you consider the information you're about to receive might actually be valuable? When I was growing up, my mother used to ask me to do things, and sometimes her reasoning was, because I said so. Looking back, I wish perhaps I took the time to pause, think, and consider the ramifications of my choices. Good Tuesday to you. Today is Tuesday, September 20th, 2016. This is episode number 7 of Pause, Think, Consider. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to listen in today. If you haven't already, I know we're in the 40s, possibly creeping up and passing 50 individuals that have gone on and liked us on Facebook. Please go on to Facebook. Like us if you already do. Do us a favor, share the page and let the rest of your circle like us on Facebook. Today's episode, we are going over the theme, the thought of being selfless. For all information on this topic, you can go to pausethinkconsider.com/selfless. So I want to start with a story today. A story that goes back several years to me riding home in the black BMW car of a former boss of mine. And we used to carpool together every day. Usually we'd take the bus in, he would drive me home. And we would always have very interesting conversations. Really interesting conversations, not just about business, but about life. And I was at an interesting age. I was just getting ready to graduate college, maybe even had graduated college when this physical topic came up. And I was very pliable. I was very impressionable. And this conversation has been something that has been on the forefront of my mind ever since we had it. And I've been rattling my brain trying to figure out what it means. Is he actually correct, and what we can do about it? So the story goes, we're driving down the road, and my former boss says to me, I don't even 100% know how we got on the subject, but it goes something like this, that there is no act that we do that doesn't have an ulterior or selfish connotation or motivation to it. I thought he was full of crap. Absolutely thought he was full of crap. And I'll ask you the question right now. If you take the time, think about it. Is it actually possible to consciously or subconsciously do something without a reason, without a selfish ulterior motive to it? Take a minute to consider that. So we went back and forth. My former boss and I went back and forth. And I gave him example after example after example. And we'll get into it a little bit more, breaking down what being selfish or selfless really is. But the closest example that I was able to come up with, because I talked about doing charitable work, I talked about donating. Nope. He was after example after example after example, was able to say, nope, this is a selfish act because of X, Y, and Z. You get X, Y, and Z benefit from this. The closest example I came to, in which he slightly hesitated, he didn't immediately come out, he still came up with a reason, but was, if I saw an individual that I never knew, Hadn't met before in my entire life. And I saw a semi-truck. She had dropped something in the middle of the road. This semi-truck is coming. It's very movie-like. I know, blockbuster movie. And they're bent down, picking up whatever, change in the middle of the road, and don't see this semi-truck coming, and it doesn't have the ability to stop. And you can see it right now. There's the horn, and I see it, and I run, and I push her out of the way, and I get splat. Just annihilated, right? Gone. Upon impact. See you later. That was the closest example that we could get to in which he hesitated. And still, in that, he said, well, it would be a selfish or an ulterior motive act because you would get the benefit of knowing you saved somebody. I go, benefit? Like, how would I know? I'm not around. There is no benefit. But I would be honored, I would be enshrined, they would build statues, and so my legacy would live on as being this great altruistic individual. So I think taking it even further, aside from the story, which I think paints a good picture for what we're going to be talking about today, about being selfless. Another word for selfless would be altruistic. And to take it even a step further, and there's a great website, becomingminimalist.com/selflessness. And I'll link to it on the website. pausethinkconsider.com/selfless. They talk about the joy of being selfless. But in looking at, I believe it's pronounced Quora, Quroa, the question was asked, is it possible to be selfless? And this individual refers to a different term, not just selfless or altruistic, but self-none. Self-none, a self-none act, which is described and defined as a 100% selfless act is what they define as being self-none. The reason using that term self-none is because saying something that is selflessness just means being less selfish. Being less selfish is being selfless or providing selflessness. In looking at the responses and in doing some personal thought about the topic of self-none, my personal belief, it is impossible to have a self-none act. It is impossible to have a self-none act. I believe it is possible to be selfless, to have less selfishness, to be less selfish, but to be self-none, 100% zero, no percentage, zero selfish, I don't think it's possible. Because we're not looking at the reward. We're looking at the motive behind the action. The reason, consciously or unconsciously, the action was taken. That's what we're really discussing here. The conscious or unconscious action and the motive behind it. To be self-none, zero selfishness, consciously or unconsciously, subconsciously, not possible. Not possible. But being selfless, I think that's really, if we can, and if you disagree, please. If you believe it is possible to be self-none, I would love to see the example. Please post it on Facebook, comment on the blog, send a response to us on YouTube, Instagram, wherever. I would love to hear the example. Because it's more of a debate. I think we could get into a really good debate on this topic. But to be selfless, altruistic. BecomingMinimalist.com/selfishness. They have a really good excerpt from this, that we live for any number of purposes. They can be used for our personal kingdom, for selfish reasons, and those reasons include money, possessions, fame, prestige, reputation. But our lives can also be lived for the pursuit of justice, happiness, or growth for another person or people group. That we can live to solve the problems we encounter in the world. We can dedicate ourselves to advancing certain ideals. My personal opinion, while it may indeed be impossible to be self-null and to have the motives behind our action have some sort of selfish connotation, I believe that getting closer in finding ways to make personal sacrifices and to do acts that help a human being help society or help another individual is what we as a society need to do and need to focus on. So, if we can't be self-null, if we've identified that it's impossible to do anything without a fragment of selfishness, consciously or subconsciously, that doesn't mean we can't be a better person. So how can we be less selfish? What can we do to be less selfish? There's a couple different articles out there I think have good ideas. LifeDaily.com, 11 Steps to Becoming Selfless. One specifically on marriage, which is something we're going to touch on later this week. But FamilyShare.com, 6 Ways to Save Your Marriage with Selflessness. And Goodreads. I think it's 111 quotes is what it winds up being. 111 quotes on selflessness. I'm a big quote fan. Love quotes. Think they are inspiring. So Goodreads.com. And I'll link to all these on the website pausethinkconsider.com/selfless. So they have a few ideas as to how we can be less selfish. Here's my 2. My personal belief really comes down to 2 things. Number 1, make a concerted, concentrated effort to think about your actions and how they affect others to the point that is just short of resentment. Make a concerted, concentrated effort to think about how your actions affect others to the point that it's just short of resentment. I think the key here is, again, the end part, to the point that is just short of resentment. Concerted, concentrated effort, as I've said and shared before, I think we should spend time and thought. That's the whole purpose of this podcast, is to take time out of each and every day to stop, think, and consider what it is we're doing, our actions, our plans, our goals. So making a concerted, concentrated effort to think, that's something we should be doing on a daily basis anyways. What are we thinking about? Our actions, but we are doing it to the point that is short of resentment. I have seen, and I have heard, and I have witnessed, and I am somebody that is very much an all or nothing individual personally. But people that go all the way, there is no boundary. They are completely selfless to the point that it is too far. Too far to the fact that they are so selfless that the other people that are around them, they despise the fact that they are not as selfless as them. They resent the individuals. They resent the fact that they are so selfless. They are so caring. They think so much about others and nobody else does. So that would be the argument we talked last Friday about your squad, your circle. Maybe you need to have a more selfless circle or squad or individuals that you surround yourself with. If you're amongst a group of people that are extremely selfish, they are very one-sided. It's a one-sided relationship. They keep you around for status or your car, or maybe you've got the coolest video games or a great cook or chef or any number of different benefits that you provide. But just short of resentment. And that's key, because if we are going to the point in which we resent other people, we are completely defeating the purpose of being selfless. Completely defeating the purpose of being selfless. If we have regret, if we feel like we've gone too far, then how effective are we really being? How effective are we really, truly being if we resent the fact as to how selfless we are being? It's defeating the purpose completely. Completely defeating the purpose. And so that's where taking the time to think about your actions, how they affect others, not just yourself. Again, just the fact you're thinking about others, that is selfless. That is already going towards the altruistic. Some would argue that you have ulterior motives, that by you helping other people, you gain other benefits from it. And you probably do. Even if it's just the satisfaction of knowing that you help somebody else, you get a satisfaction from that. Feels like you're completing your higher purpose. Feels as if you are fulfilling God, your parents' wishes, your own dreams and goals, of being the best person that you possibly can be. But as long as you don't resent, if you don't resent the fact that you are being selfless, I think it is highly productive and highly important. The second thing for how we can be less selfish, and I think it comes down to a daily habit, creating a daily habit. Personal belief that we should all do at least one thing each and every day that is as selfless as possible, not asking in return for a favor, and simply doing it out of the kindness of our heart. Some examples. Volunteering and not telling anyone about it. Volunteering and not telling anyone about it. In my opinion, if you did this on a daily basis, would help fulfill doing that one thing in the day that is as selfless as possible. If you're volunteering genuinely and generally speaking, you're not getting anything in return. You're probably getting the satisfaction that you helped somebody else, that you gave back. Maybe even the fact that you were more selfless than other people in your circle. But that's getting pretty close to the point. It's not a self-none. But if you go, as an example, you go to the food bank and you volunteer there every day. Maybe you don't even do it every day. You mix it up because you're doing other things. It's just doing one thing every day. But You go to the food bank once a week and you don't tell anyone in your circle about it. It's not a public promotion. You're not tweeting about it. You're not taking photos, posting them on Facebook. Hey, look at me and mom volunteering at the food bank. You're just doing it. That's pretty close to a pure selfless act. Pretty close. You're getting some satisfaction. You feel like you're helping other people. But when you're an individual that donates time or money, and then this is my personal opinion. I want to, if I'm going to volunteer, I don't want the recognition. That's not the point in me volunteering. But there's people out there, they like that. That's what makes them feel good. They might say, no, I don't want. And then they get that plaque, they get the enshrinement, they get a statue built after them. Oh yeah, look at this guy donated X amount, and so we built a statue of them for their generosity. And then every time they walk by it or other people, they think of that individual. Me personally, if I ever had that kind of money and was being philanthropic, nobody would know about it. Very select few. And it would be contingent on the fact that if this gets out that it is me and it becomes public knowledge, I will do something. I don't know that I can take it back per se, but bad things will happen. That's one example. Volunteer, not tell anyone about it. Donate, another one. Help somebody. Maybe you're just rattling your brain. You're like, okay, I'm going to commit to this. Every single day I'm going to do something selfless, but damn it. What can I do? Like, what would be a selfless act that I can do? How about you open the door for somebody? You let somebody cross the street. I'll link to it. I've got an Instagram video that I posted a couple weeks ago. I was standing, waiting for the bus, and kid rode up with his bike coming back from school, waiting at the crosswalk. There was not a crosswalk guard there, but waiting at the crosswalk. And this kid, I did not time it, and I started filming just towards the very end, but it was quite literally 5 minutes or more that this poor kid on his bike was waiting at the crosswalk to cross the street. And car after car after car after car just drove by, off in their own damn world, not even thinking that Johnny's trying to get home on his bike. And the video picks up when a school bus, like, okay, there's a bunch of asshole people in the community thinking about themselves, daydreaming, off in their own world. But a school bus? Really? And the kid finally got to cross the street when there was nobody else coming either direction. That's when he finally got to cross the street. But that's the disgusting thing about that video. As there's the school bus blowing right by, going through the crosswalk, not waiting, almost accelerating through it. Another car goes, and finally, because there's no cars coming, there goes Johnny. So, letting someone cross the street. How about just saying please or thank you? Saying thank you. I don't know if that goes to a degree of being selfless, but I'm trying to just give a few examples. But I think the key in anything that you do towards getting that automatically makes it selfless, that takes a hint of it being selfish out. The key for me is not using it for self-promotion. Physically doing something and not using it to benefit yourself. There may be an indirect benefit from it, or maybe even direct. Maybe you volunteering directly enables you to get a job, or you network and get more business, or whatever it is. But the conscious forefront key for it to not be about self-promotion. Do one of those things each and every day. So to recap, we talked about my former boss in our conversation about it is impossible to 100% do anything selfless. There's always going to be an ulterior motive. And that I asked the question, is it really possible to consciously or subconsciously not have an ulterior or selfish motivation for doing something? Selfless could also be described as altruistic. And then we examined and identified that the term selfnull, which is doing something 100%, a 100% selfless act, is not possible. Yet, we, as individuals, as a society, can move in a positive direction. We could move towards making actions, not the rewards, but the actions and the motive behind those actions, consciously or subconsciously, selfless, decreasing the amount of selfishness about it by making personal sacrifices and helping our society or fellow human beings or other individuals. And we can do that. A couple different takes on it: lifedaily.com, familyshare.com, 111 quotes by Goodreads. But I personally believe that making a concerted, concentrated effort to think about how your actions affect others to the point that is just short of resentment. Again, the key on just short of resentment. And then doing at least one thing each and every day that's as selfless as possible and not asking for a return of the favor, with the key being to not use it for self-promotion. I want to thank you all for listening today. Please go check out the website, pausethinkconsider.com/selfless. And please go on to Facebook, pausethinkconsider.com. I'll leave a link to it there. On Facebook, you can go to facebook.com, pause.think.consider. If you've already liked us, please share it, comment, engage. Or if you haven't, roll the dice, consider it maybe your selfless act of the day, and like us on Facebook. I look forward to talking to you all tomorrow on Pause, Think, Consider.